Hello, hi, welcome. I don't actually know how to start this video because it's not one of my normal ones where it's like, hello, I'm Alexa Donne and today I'm going to be talking about, though I'm just gonna do it. I got another book deal, yay! So I am here to announce my next YA thriller. Though backing up, I sold a book on proposal. I am like a real author now. I mean, you're a real author anytime you sell a book, but this was definitely like a milestone, like doing a thing that I knew that authors did all the time, coming up with a concept and pitching it and basically being like, does my publisher love me? And my editor apparently likes me enough to want to work with me on another book. And in fact, on this one, work with me on a book where the partial she read, I had to apologize to her. I was like, the pacing is, it's trying. Welcome to my discovery writing process. And she was so chill about it. And yeah, I'm just riding the high of, well, I'm specifically riding the high. I had a really great conversation with my editor yesterday about the book, about her kind of thoughts on the partial, though we didn't go in too deep. She's very respectful to the author writing process and knows that she could totally mess me up if we go in too deep on the first 100 pages, which I did write and submit, because I told her, I was like, I can't go back yet because if I don't forge forward to actually finish this draft, I will get so caught in the weeds of what I've already written that I won't make the deadline. So let's talk about that stuff. But first, what is this book about? So this is my murder turducken that I've talked about, and it was announced as Murder She Texted. That is not the real title of the book. That is the jokey whip title that we submitted it under, my agent and I thought it was hilarious because this is my Murder She Wrote YA. I don't think I've actually said that before because I didn't want to kind of like blow my hook. Though that goes in quotes. There's an aspect of Murder She Wrote in the concept because I wanted to do that, but it's not really Murder She Wrote structurally and plot-wise, but it's like a funny wink wink. It definitely will appeal, like if you like those Murder She Wrote cozy mystery small town secrets vibe. I was inspired by that for this book, but my intention was I wanted to make it YA. I wanted to dial it up to 110, make it really kind of dark and creepy and modern. And no, it is not about a grandmother who solves mysteries, though technically Jessica wasn't a grandmother. She was a great aunt. She had so many nieces and nephews. Like that. Can we talk about the murder rate in Cabot Cove? Which is part, like, that irony is in this book. Like, I'm doing all of these things kind of as an homage to something that I love, which is pokey little small town secrets, how the past interacts with the present. There's like Broadchurch vibes. So like, you start with Murder She Wrote and you end up with Broadchurch. That's actually, my editor was like, I'm getting a Broadchurch vibe. And I was like, thank you for the compliment. I was also inspired by The Keepers, a documentary on Netflix. My book doesn't have any nuns in it, any religion or sexual abuse scandals, but I was inspired by the vibe of that documentary, the kind of general back and forth between past and present. Inspired by so many small town secrets books, inspired by things like Big Little Lies, Sharp Objects, my favorite Gillian Flynn book, where it's like, you know, there's like a tone and an atmosphere to a small town and there's someone who ends up there who maybe doesn't want to be there. There is the have and have nots. There's rich bullshit politics. I mean, it's me, you know my brand. And it's like all of that thrown into a blender built around a soapy dead homecoming queen plot. So what is this book about? Now you get a real sense of kind of my chaotic energy. This is what my editor has to deal with. I promise my proposal made total sense because that's the nice thing about writing it down. You organize your thoughts. What is my book about? So it is about a girl named Cecilia and her mom dies of cancer and the only family she has left is her estranged grandmother who lives in this small town in Northern California. But her estranged grandmother also happens to be a New York Times best-selling author of mystery fiction. This is the Murder, She Wrote part. I was like, what if I wrote a Jessica Fletcher / a Nora Roberts type? Because Nora Roberts is a badass bitch who we love, who is so wealthy and successful and lovely that she basically literally owns a town in Maryland. Like, she has invested so much in it. It's like her town, or she might literally own it. It's something like that. And I was like, I love that energy. So the idea is that her grandmother is the queen of Seaview. She owns a lot of property there, and she almost single-handedly drives a portion of their economy from her fandom. And so Cecilia is thrust into this very weird world of small town Americana, but it's in her home state, but it's like a part of her home state she never could have fathomed. I get to play with those small town aspects because there are legit parts of Northern California that are hours away from an airport. They function like small towns. They're more conservative than average. They have the Friday night lights. There's farms. I wanted to play off of that energy. Plus trees. I wanted trees and weather because I miss weather and I miss nature. I started this before quarantine, but I've been really chewing the scenery of weather as I've been writing it stuck in my apartment, and my editor was like, I'm really vibing off of this, and I was like, I miss trees. So Cecilia is grieving, but she has to finish her senior year at this strange new high school with a family member she barely knows. Like, her mom and her grandmother stopped talking when she was like 6 years old. She doesn't know why. So that's also something that she's kind of like, she wants to connect to those pieces of her mother and those things that she doesn't know. But we're gonna kill someone. It's a murder book. It's a thriller. Very important is that Seaview is famous for two things. The first is the murder of a homecoming queen in the 1970s, and the second is the New York Times bestseller based off of that murder. So this town kind of revolves around this infamous murder of a homecoming queen, and then the homecoming queen is murdered in a similar, if not the same, manner. And everything is thrown into chaos of, is there a copycat killer in Seaview? And for reasons with a capital R, because it's a thriller, Cecilia's gonna look into that. And so, yeah, it's my small town secrets book. It's playing with the mysteries of the past and the present. The blurry lines between reality and fiction, how, you know, there are questions about the ethics of writing about something that is real, about dramatizing something that is real that can in turn potentially inspire people. That's also a question for the media, and I am still writing it, so I might incorporate those things into it. I'm fascinated by those sorts of questions as well. So that is my new YA thriller in a nutshell. The next one after the Ivies, tentatively scheduled for fall 2022. Yes, you're gonna have to wait more than a year because I have to finish writing it. I guess this is a fun time to talk about deadlines and just how, like, the publishing industry is so weird. And I know from the outside you're like, what? And even from the inside, sometimes I think about these timelines and it's like, so I sold on proposal, and I actually sold on proposal having written more of the book than the average author who sells on proposal does. I wrote 30,000 words, and I'm very glad for that because it is a pretty tight deadline, and this is because of publishing schedules. Random House in particular has a very long lead time. I already knew this about them, where they put their books to bed over a year, or they try to put them to bed or start to put them to bed, i.e. send them to copy edits over a year before they are scheduled to come out. And if you miss those deadlines, not always, sometimes there's wiggle room. Publishing can always, like, you know, pull certain things out at the last minute, but they don't like to, and it disrupts their schedule. So when they're planning their seasons and they're giving deadlines to their authors, it's always, when does this need to go to copy edits? And you work backwards from that. So in order to have my books come out a year apart, the deadline was ridiculously tight, and luckily no one was actually asking me to meet that deadline. My editor did want to offer it to me as a choice, but then she was like immediately, or we can do this. And so we are doing that because I average 20,000 words a month when I am actively drafting daily in addition to my day job. And that's only when my day job is manageable. When my day job is actually more busy, my productivity is going to go down. So it's always that juggle of like, what's going on in my day job versus my books and my deadlines. You're gonna see a vlog after this. I have been vlogging about selling this book and diving into the drafting, and now I can actually post that vlog because this news is out. And I'm basically working backwards. I have 3 months approximately with some wiggle room, thank you editor, to finish this draft. And I am gonna need to write about 60,000 words. I have 30,000, it needs to be at least 90,000. That's partly because I overwrote on that 30,000 words. As I was discovering this story, this one really kind of required more, it's almost like free writing. It's the kind of writing that is incredibly useful in the moment. Like I need to write it, but even sometimes when writing some of the things I've been writing over the last year or so, I've known this might not make it into the final copy, but I need the act of writing it. And this is all about like knowing what writing to throw out later. So meaning I know that 30,000 words I already have, probably gonna trim off it. So I could end up writing 60 to 70,000 more words of this because I have so much to juggle and manage in Act 2 going into Act 3. This one, oh, it's so strange. Some of you will have read the Ivies watching this either now or in the coming months because arcs are out. The Ivies is a very straightforward and very linear thriller. This one is linear as well, meaning it starts at one point, someone's gonna die, and there's gonna be a pretty straightforward investigation thread in terms of timing. But this one, I have far more variables in the mix in terms of the victim, in terms of motive, in terms of red herring. It's a larger cast of characters. It's a very different world that requires, I hesitate to say development, but meaning the Ivies is a very contained setting. It takes place at an elite boarding school, and once you understand the mechanics of the elite boarding school, I didn't have to do a ton outside of that. I have the small town here, I have Seaview, but there's all sorts of little microcosms within that require a lot of massaging and work, and so this is a challenge. This is gonna be the hardest Act 2 I've ever written because it has the most going on, and that's something. Get ready for those writing vlogs. But long story short, I know this book is going to draft a bit longer, and then it's going to be an interesting revision process. The revision process is going to be all about tightening Act 1, layering more into Act 2. I bet you cold hard cash right now I'm going to miss something or just not land something in Act 2, and then I'll just fix it in my first revision. I'm not that worried. And then it's snowballing downhill to Act 3. I know exactly what I'm going to do with Act 3, and I'm really, really excited. So it's not a gothic, but there's gonna be some gothic vibes in Act 3. We're excited because there are Victorian mansions in this book. Queen Anne Victorian mansions. There's so much scenery porn in this book, and my editor actually yesterday on the phone was like, you can write more of that. And I was like, oh, I will. I also lovingly describe craftsmen's multiple times. This is my California architecture porn book. There's also a modern architecture mansion. Man, I really am going in on the houses. So if you want California architecture pornography, read Murder, She Texted. Title probably to be changed, very likely to be changed. So Murder, She Texted is just such a cute title, and it's very apropos, and I love the sharpness of it, but I'm like, it sounds like a cute, cozy mystery, and this book is way darker than that. I go to some bleak, dark places. This book is about death. This book is about grief. I'm channeling some things into it. Yeah. I mean, who doesn't throw themselves into a murder investigation in order to kind of shut down and avoid their own feelings about being an orphan? I've gone on too long. The point is I sold a book. I'm really excited. Like, of course I've known about this for 6 weeks, so like my excitement is slightly tempered. It was really cool hearing about this. It was like early-ish December, and I was like, Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. I mean, we barely had Christmas this year. Early birthday present for me, that's what we're gonna call it. It was such a relief to close out hell year, knowing that I had a really bright spot on the horizon, but then I had to keep it a secret. This is a rambling mess, which is what happens when I talk off the cuff, because I did not outline this, so I'm gonna cut myself off there. But needless to say, I sold another book. I'm really happy. I'm relieved because it was this like big unknown. Selling on proposal is a big deal. It's a major step for me. It's a step forward because it's like I sold another thriller. I am a thriller author now because I'm gonna have at least 2. And I'm just thrilled to continue my relationship with Crown, with my editor. I really love the relationship that we're building. Like, we really went through something on the Ivies, which makes it sound harrowing. It wasn't, except she had big notes and they were big, and I love the way she articulated them. She basically held my hand through a really tricky revision, and together we made a book that I'm really proud of, and I know I couldn't have ended up with that book without her, and so I'm just really excited to see what we do together on this one. We're already vibing hard. We had a call, and like, she was like, this, and I was like, yes, and then she was like, what about this? And I was like, you're dark and I love you. She like gave me permission. It's gonna go really dark is all I have to say. And I'm like, this is why we work well together. So it's really exciting because now it's a real book. I get to talk about it. We're gonna use the working title to talk about it from now on. Murder, She Texted. Asterisk, we're probably gonna change it. And then that's gonna be interesting too, how we come up with a title for this book. It's a weird case for me. Usually I get my titles very early in the process. And I will tell you, this had a different title, working title, before Murder, She Texted. But it was based around a plot conceit, and I realized as I got closer to the break into 2 that I wanted to throw that plot conceit out of the book. It was something interesting to write toward a year ago. But then when I came back to it in 2020, the book evolved past it, and it was great because I talked to my editor and she also agreed, yeah, throw that thing out. It's a later problem, but definitely throw that thing out. So it's funny because if that thing had stayed in the book, it would have been a perfect title, but that is why it doesn't like have a title. So I'm gonna keep writing it and we're gonna like figure out what it is. Let me know down below in the comments if you have any questions about this whole wacky process, and give this video a thumbs up if you like it. I mean, I'll continue to like make updates when exciting things happen in publishing. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. I post new videos 2 to 3 times a week, and as always, guys, thank you so much for watching and happy writing.